Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking shop in the shop on how to load your film camera. We are working with a Nikon FA today. It's a little bit newer of a film camera, so there is just one thing that is a little bit different compared to your standard AE1 or K1000. Those are the two that seem to be around the most because they were really good cameras back in the day, workhorses, and still are. So, we are going to be loading the camera with Kodak film. First thing we are going to do is open the film. And one of the major things to focus on before, or remember to do, before you actually load your camera is to set the ISO. That will set everything after that in terms of your shutter speed and your aperture. That will reflect off of your ISO. So we are shooting with a 200 speed Kodak film. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna come over here and you are going to, and this is pretty standard on most film cameras, but you will generally lift up this outer ring and there will be a mark on the outside where you'll kind of move that and try and find where your ISO is. So we are at 200, so as you see right now, the red mark is set. So we're good to go. So what you're going to do is come over here, lift this up, and this is what I said was the one thing that was different. There's a little knob here that you have to click on this camera in order to open up the back. Other ones will be a standard issue, just pull up and go. This is for safety measures, for locking it in. So again, pull this up a little bit more and it's going to pop open. We have a very pristine camera that we're working with today. As you can see, it's very clean. I have an old Canon AE1 in which the sponging is starting to fall apart, which is common in older cameras, and you can get that fixed for a pretty decent price. So, one thing to keep in mind also before you load it in is there are two settings right in here that will match up with your lockup here. So, you're gonna load this in right here. And sometimes this won't match up, so you have to move this around and boom, stick it down so it's set in. That will help advance your film. I pull the lip all the way out and over here so that it sits down on your sprockets. That way you know, again, another safety measure so that it will advance. These are all things to help the film go through your camera. And one of the hardest parts about loading a film camera, I think, is to get it into the slit and to make sure that you know it's secure, because sometimes it can come loose in your camera, and if that does occur, you might end up with a blank roll. But again, these are common things that do happen, so don't beat yourself up if you happen to have an empty roll on your first 2, 3, 10 rolls. Hopefully you get it down the second time. So, one thing to keep in mind as well is that your film is light sensitive. So anything that is out of your canister right now is exposed, and when you process it, it will be black or blank. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna advance it right now. I'm gonna cock the shutter. And what I like to do is I like to advance it twice while it's open so I know that it has caught. I'm gonna advance it again. And then what I do is, again, because this is light sensitive and it is exposed right now, I'm gonna close the back, and you hear that just pop right in, and I'm gonna let it expose 2 more times so that I do have that empty space where there was no light exposed to it. So right now you're good to go, ready to shoot. Again, one thing to keep in mind is make sure you have that ISO set before you go out and shoot. And then over here on the top is where you will see your advancing. It'll go from 1 to 36. Sometimes your camera will count backwards, so that's just one thing to keep in mind before you start to shoot with your camera or get comfortable with your camera. And also sometimes to remember what film you have in your camera, people will rip off this part and you will tuck it right in the back of your film camera like that. And it just reminds you what film you have in case you're not shooting it all in one day, if you have it for a week or so and you just want to remember what film you have in there. Okay, so now you have your film camera ready to go and shoot. Stay tuned for next time. We are going to be talking about the different types of film, Kodak versus Fuji versus Cinestill versus even Lomo, and there's other types of films out there. But I'd like to talk on the ones that we do sell here and what the differences are. Stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys.